Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we explore convenient yet effective shortcuts that will help you get ahead and move forward faster by becoming a better leader. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
Developing your contact center agents using surveys is what monkeys do. Elevate your ROI on VOC by building integrity and agent engagement with the survey calibration process, only available in the award-winning external quality monitoring program from Customer Relationship Metrics. Move onward and upward by going to customersgradethecall.com/fast and getting your $7,500 rapid results package for free. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, today I'm excited because I get to share with you one of my favorite people in the world. Nancy Porte was born in a small town in South Dakota and lived her early life on a wheat farm. Early in her life, her parents decided to move the family of 8 from the farm to the city. In the process, they lived in a number of places and eventually settled in Spokane, Washington. Because she was from such a large family, a 4-year college education was out of reach, but through a combination of determination, some planning, and a bit of luck, she earned her degree and started a career that would have some unpredictable twists and turns. Starting as a healthcare practitioner and then telling the CEO that she wanted his job, she began being mentored in hospital management. And then when he left, she left and began with a tiny startup called Career Builder. Now she currently holds a customer experience leadership position in a top 100 global software company. Nancy is the Vice President of Global Customer Experience for Verint. She focuses on bringing the voice of the customer into the organization and developing strategies to increase customer satisfaction, loyalty, and retention. She has experience in developing differentiated customer experience through cross-functional collaboration and employee engagement programs. She is a certified customer experience professional and, as a customer experience thought leader, is a primary contributor to the Verint blog and a regular speaker at industry conferences. She is proud of her work in customer experience. The profession is new. Somehow, she has always known it was where she was meant to be. She has great passion about the potential for the career and has hope that the work that she is doing is laying the groundwork for helping build a profession that will be available to others in coming years and decades. Nancy currently lives in Northern Virginia with her husband Phil, and her 2 children have graduated from college and are launching successful careers themselves. Nancy Porte, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
I am. Thank you, Jim.
I'm glad you're here. I've given our Legion a little bit about you, but can you tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you even better?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that very nice introduction, Jim. My current passion is, of course, customers' experience with us. Of course, front and center. But my real passion is around employee engagement. I really believe that every day the employees walk in the door wanting to do the very best job possible. And because of our systems and our processes or our training, we put obstacles in their way. So we've been working really hard the last few months to take what we know about what customers expect and work directly with customers in every single role of our organization, not just customer facing either, but customer impacting. I mean, if you think about it, the finance people that maybe never talk with a customer necessarily, but put out a wrong bill, impact the customer experience as much as the person in customer service. So we're working with with each one of the employees and saying, here's our guiding principle. This is what customers want. What does that mean in your role? What are the behaviors that we specifically can get in your role and expect for everyone in your role? So we're training to that, but these are the behaviors that the employees themselves identify. And then we train to that. We're also looking at our performance management systems and our reward systems to make sure that we're aligning that with the customer experience. So we want to say, are we rewarding customers? Or we're rewarding employees for the work that they're doing with customers, because that's so important to us. So I believe employee engagement is absolutely key to the customer experience. And so that's really where my passion lies these days.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I think you bring up a really interesting point. And as you were talking, I started thinking about visibility, and that as an employee who is responsible for, working on projects or handling, certain tasks or, aspects or areas of the business, oftentimes I don't see, how me doing what I do affects or impacts our customers.
Exactly. That came home to me one time. I was talking about the value of customer experience at a company meeting and how we all had an impact. And I realized that there were some people a little farther away from the customer who might not know their impact. But the first person who came and talked to me about it was someone in account management. And I'm not kidding. They said, I'm not sure of my impact on the customer. And I'm like, oh, that hurts. But, and so what I learned from that was, because she was so genuine and she really wanted to understand her impact on customers. And I said, you have one of the largest impacts in the company. You're talking with customers every day and helping make them successful. And she said, yes, but what's my impact at the end of the day? What's my impact? So now I don't take anything for granted. I don't say, okay, let's just work with people a couple steps away from the customer and teach them their impact. We work with everybody and really talk about their impact on the customer and what it means to the business ultimately.
I think that's such an important, foundational and groundwork component that oftentimes folks, just overlook. I jokingly tell people so they can kind of see the somewhat humor, but then also reality in what you're talking about, in a call center environment. And I said, you know what? The janitor who cleans our bathrooms impacts the customer experience. And people
Absolutely.
They're what? They're what? And I'm like, you think about this. What do you feel, or what do you think and feel when you go into a bathroom and it's absolutely filthy? Don't you think that actually gets taken out onto the floor and then now becomes part of the interaction with the next customer who you have to interact with?
Yeah. I'm going to steal that, Jim.
It absolutely does. But we don't think about those things. And the reason we don't think about those things is because nobody's really made them visible for us.
Yes, it's true. It's true. And the person after the account manager that asked me that was the person who was receptionist at the front desk. And, and she makes such an impact as customers come into our office. I loved it because recently I was in an office where they named their front receptionist the director of first impressions. And so I loved that. I felt like that was a customer-centric company that had the foresight to in the title, show that person the impact that they had on customers.
And I would say for anybody who, is thinking that creatively, don't let others stop you from doing that because they'll say, oh, well, it's just semantics. And that is not true.
Absolutely.
We have proven over and over that those sticks and stones absolutely do hurt us. They do, and they influence us, they impact us. And so doing some of those creative things that causes pause is really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when it
impacts not only that employee that has that creative title, but as others are coming in, it tells them something about your company. So there's a lot more to it.
There absolutely is. There's a whole neuroscience. I mean, we're learning more and more about what causes us to do the things that we do and what, averts us from doing things, or averting customers from doing the things that we want them to do. And a lot of things just are part of the interplay. Now, it's not to say that, doing all of these things and chasing all these shiny objects, you and I talked off mic about chasing shiny objects, is the right thing to do. And it is formulaic. So there's a lot of different things that you should be doing in concert with one another that in holistic nature will have a greater impact.
Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So when you start thinking about, some of this work and this foundational work, where would you say the group or people that you've worked with have had the most difficulty in seeing their visibility to the customer?
It's not who you would think. Again, I'm surprised that some of the customer impacting departments, which, are what some might call back office, they often understand their impact more. And where I'm working is with a lot of the customer facing departments and showing them their impact. Even customer support might say, listen, I'm just solving problems. It's not a big deal. But what we talk about is a lot of times it's the way you're solving the problem. Customers like, for example, proactive communication. And it's very easy for an engineer to say, it's going to take me 3 days to solve this problem, but he's thinking it to himself, not expressing that to the customer. And he knows it doesn't make any sense to call the customer back if I don't have anything going on. I will call him at the end of 3 days and tell him that's the solution. So what the customer really wants is to know you're still working on it. So what we did was we actually measured customer satisfaction in support before we started a soft skills training and implemented a new process around communicating every 24 hours to our customers. And even if you didn't have an update, let the customer know we're concerned about this issue, we're working on it, we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Our satisfaction went up 10 points just on the fact that we were communicating more effectively. The length of time it took to resolve the issue did not decrease, but they felt it had decreased. So I think there's a lot to be said for, looking at what your customers expect. If they expect proactive communication, how do you build that in, not just in the sales process, but, even in the support team, the account management team, everywhere?
Well, I think I'd be hard pressed to find, any, or there can't be many groups where that whole proactive communication piece couldn't add value to the customer relationship. I mean, with everything that all of us have going on these days, knowing that somebody is still, carrying forward, on, the promise, and that your expectation, is actually being executed upon, I mean, it's key.
It's key. It's key.
And I mean, to the point to where you're talking about 10 percentage points. Now, you're telling me 10 percentage points, and I've been dealing with, metrics and analytics on customer experience for, going almost on 2 decades now. So when you start talking about 10 points, make that more real for us. What does that mean?
10 points is a huge increase in for satisfaction. And I don't care where you start. If you're looking at a 10-point increase, that is a dial move that is substantial for your customers. And it's not small.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And so to make this more real, there's companies that I've known who've spent literally millions and millions of dollars just trying to get 1 or 2 percentage points. You're talking about a double-digit increase.
Yes, true. And often, when you're first starting to make change, you get a larger bump in your increase in satisfaction. And then you really start having to work very, very hard for, just a little bit. But at the same time, nobody gives away that 10 points. They're going to keep that and move on from there.
I mean, that's a great point. So when you start thinking about, the employee engagement component, and you mentioned something about, the way that you're actually recognizing folks, for that engagement piece. I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of folks about, motivation and engagement and, short-term gain, long-term loss in regards to rewards and recognition. And that, that there's a lot of, you talking about that particular area of driving performance has a lot of slippery slopes with it. So when you start, thinking about the work that you're doing, well, how are you actually making that connection so it actually doesn't create a damaging effect?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. It can easily cause a damaging effect. I think that where I look at it is it has to be authentic. It has to be an authentic reward. It can't just be something that is it's all fluff. And that it happens this quarter, but doesn't happen the next quarter. So besides being authentic, this is truly an award. We're really looking for the people who are making an impact. I also like making it a peer reward. So having it nominated by coworkers, I think means more to a lot of our employees. To be recognized by their coworkers is kind of more gratifying even than your manager, although we want both, right?
Well, I think you bring up a good point. I mean, it has to be multifaceted. It can't be just one, sided. Because I know I've seen a lot of these particular types of recognition programs where it almost becomes, like a pageant show. it's the favorite person gets all the rewards, and then the other folks, especially the one who's miscongeniality, doesn't get anything, right?
Right.
So it's, you have to make sure that you look at that in a lot of different ways. So what we're talking about here, customer experience, employee engagement, there's a whole lot of passion that can actually revolve around all of this. And we looked at quotes on the Fast Leader Show to kind of help drive some passion. Is there a quote or two that you can share?
Jim, recently we lost one of my, I would say, big influences, Mary Tyler Moore. I know she's a celebrity, but we lost her recently, and she really was an icon in the 70s for working women. And the more I looked at what she did in her life, she had a quote that I really have always liked. And she said, "You can't be brave if you've only had wonderful things happen to you." And I love that, because I think we think that bad things are just really, really bad things. But when we look back on our career or our lives, we realize a lot of those made us who we are today and made us better. And so taking risks, having failures here and there, it's not always a bad thing. And it really does help us be better, and it helps us be grateful.
I think that's a really important point. And I actually had the opportunity to, during one of my interviews by Kirk Weisler. He was actually off mic, talked about a friend of his who was actually diagnosed with cancer. And I know you're a survivor, and we're glad you're here and hoping that you're cancer free for the rest of your days.
Thank you.
But he was talking about how he was almost afraid to approach his friend because he had found out, through others that, he was actually given this diagnosis. And so he decided to actually, finally got over his apprehension to actually address and approach him. And he went to his house, and he was having a party. And he was like, well, he couldn't understand why this guy was having a party because he got diagnosed with cancer. He goes, look, there's many ways that I can actually take this diagnosis. He goes, I have to take it as a positive and an opportunity, because if not, that in itself will kill me.
Yes. I was diagnosed, as you said, with cancer. And so it was 17 years ago. And some people would ask me, they'd say, "Are you asking yourself why me?" And I said, absolutely not. I'm not. I didn't get an immunity stick at the beginning that I remember, right? So I would have just as good a chance as anyone else. But it did give me that perspective. I thought, well, no matter how you're looking at it, if I'm going to live now a long life and the cancer is just a blip on the screen, I should be happy. On the other hand, if this shortens my life, I want to live every minute, and I should be happy. So it was really my conclusion to be as positive as I could through the whole event, because no matter what disease process we have or don't have, we do have limited time, and we have to make the most of it.
That's right. As they say, it's not how you got knocked down, it's how you get up.
Yeah.
Okay, so just talking about that, we talk about, getting over some of these humps on the Fast Leader Show, and we just talked about one that you've got over, and hopefully you'll never have to go over it again. But is there a story that you can share that you've had a great learning from?
Yeah, I'll go back to customer experience on my learning event, because I originally started in customer service. When I went to the tech company that originally started as NetStart and then became Career Builder, I was on the customer service side, and I loved the customer part. The part that I always thought was short-sighted was the fact that we were reactive. We were fixing problems, and I just knew that some of those problems should never have happened in the first place. So wouldn't it be great if we talked with customers, found out what they expected, found out their side of these issues, and fix them earlier in their, we would have said the process, now we say their journey. So what I wanted to do, and I think this was a big kind of hump in my career, was for years what I wanted to do was survey the customers, find out what they wanted, and then fix things in the company that would make customers happier. At the time, there was no role for that. And I went and talked to my CEO, and I go, this is what I want to do. And he said, well, there's not a job for that. You need to do customer service. So I retrenched. I went back to him numerous times. Finally, I said, what if I do this in addition to my job? What if we just start or easy and I do a survey to the customers and we ask them, how are we doing with you? And is there anything we can do that would make things better? He said, sure, if you want to do your regular job and that job, that's fine. So we started with the survey. The survey was such an eye-opener. Again, remember, this was in the day we weren't asking customers a lot about what they thought. So the survey was such an eye-opener to the whole management team in that company that then from there we started doing some other things to make things better in the organization. So I guess what it taught me, my lesson on that was don't be afraid to work really, really hard for something you know is right. For a long time, I did 2 jobs because I had my day job, but I knew this other job was going to impact the business and it was going to be valuable. I knew the customer viewpoint was important to us doing well as a business. And I just felt it in my bones. And so I did that job in addition to my job. And eventually it turned into a job and we called it customer experience.
So thanks for sharing that. I started thinking about how the typical approach is when people want to do what you actually executed is, they talk about, well, we need to build a business case. We need to show ROI. We need to show all these, statistical things associated with. But based on what you were just telling me, that's almost like a lazy way of trying to get it done.
Well, I've done that approach too in different ways, and business cases can be hard to put together, but I think there's nothing wrong with putting a lot of work into it, improving the case, doing some pilot projects, and doing a proof of concept, because it illustrates so much better what impact there can be. And so, I could have done a whole business case around this and said, this will work. And this will bring the ROI to the company. But I can tell you, I don't think it would have had nearly the impact as that first flood of customer feedback that we received. It brought the voice into the business. And when I think back and see the light bulbs that came on above the executive heads in that boardroom, and I don't think I'll ever forget that, it was definitely the right way to go for me.
Well, I mean, it should be for most of us. And I think we need to take this valuable lesson is that, it's too easy for people to poke holes in your business case. But when you're showing them actual proof and validation, it's how can you slough that off?
I agree. I also think there's a fair component here of passion is contagious. And the customer has been my passion for so long. And I see other people that have this same passion. And, we see it in our meetings when all of us customer people get together, and it's so contagious. And the fire lights, you can pass that torch to people when you have a passion around something. So I think they saw a lot of that too. I just knew it was the right thing to do.
So I think, and for you, when you start talking about actually doing that, you've created really a career out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many years ago was that? Not to date you or anything, but that was a while back.
Well, I've had I'll tell you this, and this will help not date me. So I have had a pure customer experience job for the last 3.5 years here at Verint. So I've always had it as part of my job in all of my roles, but that's been a little bit self-induced. But now I have a job that is solely focused on improving the customer experience here at Verint. And I've said this in a lot of my jobs because I think every job I have is the best job ever, but this is really the best job ever.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, I think what you kind of referred to in being the newness of this particular position, I think that's also been reflective of our marketplace as a whole, is that it's fairly new for, people to actually dedicate and focus and be able to give both opportunity, resource, all of those things associated with customer experience as a department and as a profession, not just something that is done.
Yeah, it is. And I suspect that the profession will change a lot over the next decade. We have a professional association, as you well know, Jim, the CXPA, and that's the caretaker of the profession right now. But we expect that there are going to be a lot of changes. There's a lot of technology changes, and there's customer expectations are constantly changing. So I think the profession will change over time. But I hope that those of us in the profession now are creating a great foundation for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I see it's kind of two things are pulling us in a little bit different directions. But I think ultimately we have the opportunity to lead them into, positive impact. And that is when you start thinking about technology and artificial intelligence and all of the things that, are possible through something like that. And then this whole human component that, one of my guests on the Fast Leader show talked about that, we currently live in a society where there's more lonely people than there's ever been before, which just seems counterintuitive because we're looking at all these social networks and all these connections, but they're all superficial. They're not real deep and meaningful.
Yes, I would agree. I would agree with that. And I think that's the changing customer as well. That's another aspect of what we have to consider as we look at how we can serve our customers better. And the whole social side changes how we interact with customers. Definitely.
Okay, so I know, we talked about customer experience. We talked about, and yes, you're involved with CXPA, doing the employee engagement work. And I know, you love, also your balanced, personal time, and you do some really cool things. Yep. We talked about that off mic. But what's one of your goals?
I always have, you know what? One of my goals is to actually focus on my goals because I always have so many goals. And I'll read a book and I think, oh, that's a good goal. I should have that. But so I'm at a point in my career that it's just a very good spot in my career, but I'm also realizing that as a leader in an organization, a lot of what you have to do is to focus and prioritize. And so as interested as I am in just a wide array of topics, and in getting a lot of things done for our customers, it's really important to focus and prioritize so that the important things are done. And so that's probably one of my goals right now is to be a more effective leader through that, having not as many goals and having them clearly delineated.
Focus. I love that. That's been my work for the past 2 years. I think I'm going to be several more.
I think I will too.
And the Fast Leader Legion wishes you the very best. Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. An Even Better Place to Work is an easy-to-use solution that gives you a continuous diagnostic on employee engagement along with integrated activities that will improve employee engagement and leadership skills in everyone. Using this award-winning solution is guaranteed to create motivated, productive, and loyal employees who have great work relationships with their colleagues and your customers. To learn more about An Even Better Place to Work, visit beyondmorale.com/better. Here we go, Fast Leader Legion. It's time for the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Nancy, the Hump Day Hoedown is a part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Nancy Porte, are you ready to hoe down?
I'm so ready.
All right. So what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
The focus and prioritization. Need to do a better job at that.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Best advice I ever received was if you have two people that you're deciding between to hire the person with the people skills, train the technical skills.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
I always expect the best of people.
What do you feel is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life?
The best tools I have is that I have an operational background and I've worked at virtually every level of the organization. So I think one of the best tools I have is that for the teams that I lead, I've done their job before and I know what to expect.
What would be one book, and it could be from any genre, that you'd recommend to our Legion?
I'm reading a book that I love right now. It's called The Gene by, I hope I get this name right, Siddhartha Mukherjee. It's about the history of genetics in the word genetic studies, and it has messages for leaders, for life, everything. It's a brilliant book.
Okay, Fast Leader Legion, you can find links to that and other bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Nancy Porte. Okay, Nancy, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25, and you've been given the opportunity to take the knowledge and skills that you have now back with you, but you can't take everything back. You can only choose one. So what skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
That's a really good question. I have trouble with that. But here's the thing: I wouldn't do anything, because if I were to time travel and change one thing, it might change the outcome. And I love my life right now. I love where I've ended up. But if you give me the opportunity to go back, what I would do is I would whisper in my 25-year-old self's ear that perfection is boring. Take a few risks. Don't try to be the best at everything. Have a little more fun.
Nancy, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader Legion how they can connect with you?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to hear from them. You can reach me on email at nancy.port@verint.com. I'm also pretty active on Twitter, and you can reach me at @nport.
Nancy Porte, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.